You're from Terra Luna, and so is your co-founder. How did you join Terra?
Tragedy, because I had just lost a bunch of money from UST in Luna.
After the collapse of the Luna, what made you come back?
Was not done in a good way. Like, there's no guiding hand of like,
So just rebuild everything. Start over.
just rebuild it.
Start from scratch.
Yeah. Rollups on Ethereum are like the EU, and Initia and the rollups on the interwoven stack are like the US, the Fed, which is
Who did this? Who said this?
me and Stanford made this up.
We are the Apple of blockchain.
Apple of blockchain.
In the L1 landscape, we have Vera, Monad, Initia, maybe Story Protocol too.
You saw this happen on, say, Aptos, Sui before they all launched.
Do you think we can, reproduce the success of Terra in
That no one cares about holding. It's like an actually hated coin.
like just you said, it is centralized?
I didn't say that. But Initia's end goal is not to be the most decentralized chain ever.
As an intern there, how did you feel after you heard the collapse of Terra Luna?
Initia is a Cosmos SDK move VM layer 1. Initia is a network for interwoven rollups where we reimagine how the multi-chain networks should look, feel, and operate.
Hello? I'm Jesse's boss.
Welcome back to... I'll start over, sorry.
We're not gonna edit this. We're just gonna go.
Welcome back to PFP. It's a very special podcast.
Your boss is here.
Okay, I'm nervous.
Jesse, focus.
Welcome back to PFP. This episode is a very special one because my boss is here. Who are you?
Hello? I'm Jesse's boss. I'm not actually Jesse's boss, though. But yeah, my name is Zon. I'm on the founding team. That was a mistake. My name is Zon. I'm one of the co-founders of Initia, and Jesse is a wonderful employee of ours.
Thank you. What do you do at Initia? And what is Initia?
Yeah, good question.
I'm
You
curious.
want to give the answer?
Oh, no, you can go.
Okay. Initia is a network for interwoven rollups. We are holistically rebuilding how multi-chain networks should look, feel, and operate along the architecture, product, and economic systems using a purpose-built layer 1 and an interwoven system of layer 2s.
what do you mean by interwoven?
That's a good question. I use it to describe two things. One is the connectedness and the interoperability of the layer 2s on Initia. One of the problems with new chains, especially with rollups on Ethereum, is that you have to deal with them being isolated. And so rollups on Initia, as soon as they launch, they have connections to every other rollup on Initia, any Cosmos chain, any EVM chain over layer 0 or IBC, as well as things like CCTP and oracles. So they're connected to everything else, so they're interwoven with them. But I also use it to describe the ecosystem that forms in Initia. I think the rollups are all there to like play with each other, to grow the pie, to like build a much more tight-knit connection of app chains than you would find on rollups on Ethereum, which are a bit more sovereign states that only care about themselves.
So before founding Initia, did you find the interoperability a problem?
So I've been a long-time Cosmos developer, so I wouldn't say interop was the biggest problem, but I would say liquidity fragmentation was. And the Cosmos ecosystem as a whole, the way that new chains kind of slowly popped up, was not done in a good way. Like, there's no guiding hand of like, we should have this as the liquidity hub, this should be connected to this is how paths should flow. And because of that, you basically just created a clusterfuck of liquidity fragmentation. And then on Ethereum, the rollups there never really paid attention to this problem. And so I knew that in a modular world, when we have thousands of rollups, when we have like 10 interoperability solutions, 15 DA layers, the problems that we had seen for years would only get worse and worse. And so we decided to build a system that just solves it from day one.
So just rebuild everything. Start over.
Just rebuild it.
Start from scratch.
Yeah.
What do you think was the most, distinct problem in the Cosmos ecosystem?
I think there was a few things. One, the first and foremost one is the hub. So Cosmos Hub just really has no role or place in the Cosmos ecosystem at all. What you look for from a hub is like leadership, guidance, the ability to help the consumer chains and the rest of the chain succeed. But really it is just this glass ceiling for any chain within Cosmos that no one cares about holding. It's like an actually hated coin because it's gone. It's literally been at the same price for maybe the past like 10 years or like 6 years. I think because ICS, which is the hub's goal of like using it for security, is a pretty unscalable design, so it can't be used well. The second was there's no economic benefits to the other chains. And the third is, you never saw it be integrated.
Besides from the protocol level, standard or operation standards or features, then I think the problem you said about Cosmos was more like operational side. So, what kind of improvements did you apply to the operating the foundation or the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think we realized that the entire point of our infrastructure is to help layer 2s on Initia win. Like, there's no need for us to exist if there aren't really cool apps that people care to come and use. And so our entire goal is we don't really care about ourselves. It's about how can we shape everything to help these layer 2 teams win. So our economic systems, Initia VIP, right? It's all about distributing rewards back to layer 2s and their users. Our entire architecture design allows you to have like full sequencer revenue, use whatever tokens you want for gas. We don't enforce anything along those lines. And then we're just focused on bringing in teams that can help steward this new ecosystem that are building something unique and interesting to drive users into Initia, and then ensuring that these layer 2 teams want to cross-pollinate with each other.
Could you tell us more about the VIP program?
Yeah, sure. So Initia VIP is essentially a mechanism we built to distribute rewards to layer 2 applications. How it works is we have 10% of the token supply that's allocated for this. And then there's 2 ways that these get distributed to layer 2s. One is based on how much init they have on their layer 2. The second is a gauge vote that is held on the layer 1. And so across those 2 mechanisms, you allocate the VIP rewards to this layer 2, this layer 2, and this layer 2. Then on each of those, they set a distribution mechanism based on some sort of on-chain KPI. So they say, okay, I care about distributing these rewards to my users based on their volumes. I care about distributing it based on the amount of borrows they have. It could be anything. And this allows teams to pick what they care most about within their application. And then basically Initia as a whole distributes these rewards directly to those users. The reason we do this is if you look at Arbitrum or Optimism's grant programs, they are incredibly subjective. They end up going into the hands of the teams and the treasuries there, and they never make it back to the hands of users. And we think the best way to help teams is incentivize users to use applications, and then those applications can take a fee out of this or something. And then the last part about VIP is these rewards are distributed to users as escrowed init, not just plain init. And escrowed init has engagement-based vesting. So users have to continually use the applications over time, slowly unlock these rewards. As they maintain their engagement, they earn more and more of these locked rewards. So you build a flywheel of attracting users and keeping them around over time, ideally.
So for VIP to work, I think user retention is a very important thing for the L2s. And what do we see in our ecosystem? Like, what do they do to make the users come back?
Well, that's why it all depends on the application, right?
It has to be
Like it's
fun.
all, yeah, they have to build a good app.
Yeah.
right? But that is one of the reasons our ecosystem growth has been a lot more focused on quality over quantity. I think this is just a pitfall that a lot of new ecosystems fall into, of thinking, hey, we need to have 50 applications, we need to have 100 applications for day one. You saw this happen on, say, Aptos, Sui before they all launched. You're starting to see it in some ecosystems right now before launch. But what happens when you focus on quantity is that you get copy-paste forks, and you get like little hackathon projects of teams that are in the mindset of grant farming in the first place. If that is your end user or end developer, they often just like grant farm again and leave eventually. And so we've taken a lot more of a steady approach of finding teams that are building something unique, something interesting, and just want to build an app chain, and then try to support them as much as we can, because we don't do any grants. We've never given a grant. And I think that's the best way to proceed, because you find teams that are actually dedicated to building. And so right now we have a suite of pretty interesting products, I think, built as app chains, and I think they will keep users over time. And VIP is just a great way to help them attract more users. And maybe these teams don't have a native token yet, right? This is a great way for them to basically just start bootstrapping liquidity and retention. And so, Ceci, how about you tell me about your favorite?
I was
initial
gonna
layer
ask
two?
you. I was gonna ask you about.
What are some of the favorite apps?
Don't put me on the spot like
that-
that.
You work here. You should know.
What do we? What do we?
Wow.
What do we have on
Okay.
Initia?
There's Blackwing, Contro, Milky Way, Civicia, Kamagachi. I think an easy one to talk about is Civicia, if you want.
It's like a Monopoly kind of
Is
game.
this part of the podcast, or are we cutting this out?
It is part of the podcast. So Zon, could you introduce some of the apps on Initia right now, and what are your favorites?
Yeah, for sure. So there is this one that I'm pretty excited about that is up and coming called Contro. They built this thing called the Glob. Basically, this super autistic researcher named Andreas, he built this thing called the Gradual Limit Order Book. And what it does is it slows down the time of markets so that you're not competing on the time scale, which sounds very weird, but it is specifically built for prediction markets, which is very timely right now. Hopefully he launches this thing before the election so we get to try it out. But one of the problems about like poly markets or like the betting market on drift right now is that they basically use like an order book / a UniV2 like pool. And so if someone instantly finds information out sooner than someone else, there's a lot of front running there. And so people can just basically snipe all the remaining upsides of a prediction market. So the Glob removes that time scale and allows people to basically just have the most fair bets, because if I find information out sooner than someone else, it doesn't matter. There is some degree of time, but it's basically like drawn out. So if I make a bet, 3 hours before someone else or 1 hour before someone else, the buy of my bet slowly gets ticked into the pool over time. And so it like elongates the buy over time. And so it's kind of why it's like a TWAP, but as an order book.
Okay, so is there a sector that Initia is concentrating right now? So I feel like there are a lot of DeFis.
Yeah, so I think DeFi is just one of the most critical parts of any blockchain ecosystem, but definitely you need, the core set of DeFi primitives to exist.
Okay.
And then you need the interesting, novel DeFi primitives that are going to attract new users that aren't like ecosystem support. So I think that's teams like Blackwing, Milky Way. There's a project called Arma that I'm very excited about as well that's doing shielded perpetuals. And then outside of DeFi, we have a new cohort of Initias that is coming out that are a bit more along the consumer and gaming narratives. And so there's three games actually that I think are pretty cool right now on Initia. One being Civicia. They're basically a perpetual on-chain game of Monopoly where people buy lands together. They then need to strategize on sabotaging other lands or fortifying themselves. And they all get thrown into a group chat automatically. There's one called Kamigachi. They are a cracked team that is just building basically a idle RPG game. That was pretty fun. You can play right now. It's on testnet. And then there's a third one called Infinity Ground. They basically use AI to build mini games very quickly. They have a pretty awesome studio team that does all their animations, but they can bust out games in like 2 minutes. They have this one game where it's basically Dance Dance Revolution, but Trump is dodging bullets. That one's pretty fun. So I think they have a good chance of just bringing in new users that are not already in crypto. And with some of the work that we've been doing on the wallet side and the social login side, it should be fairly easy for these users to build Initia accounts and then hopefully get interwoven into the rest of the ecosystem and cross-pollinate.
So for interwoven to work, there should be interactions from L2 to another L2. Like, is that happening on the L2?
It is happening with some of the lending markets as well as some of the perpetuals and DEX platforms. I think it's mostly in the idea of like, let's just make this flow easier. For example, if I am on Milky Way and I restake my Milk Tia, there is Inertia, which is building a lending market, as well as the first LRT on top of Milky Way. They will basically be able to automatically just like do the cross-chain transfers to mint you the LRT and then like deposit it in their lending. And then there's teams that will basically take use of those types of flows and put it for using within their perpetuals platforms. So if you're trying to deposit some asset, they can already do all the conversions for you. In general, I'm not a big believer in the need for atomic cross-chain transactions. I don't think that the upside is there or worth it for the technical development that needs to go in place. And, I could be wrong. It's very plausible that I am wrong. I think it's good to just have convictions weakly held. But until I see a really good use case for atomicity cross-chain that's not something like arbitrage or just like wrapping some asset and then bringing it back, I think asynchronous composability is fine. And we've been using it within Cosmos for years.
I think one of the criticism that Ethereum side got recently was that the value extraction from L1 to L2, I guess, because I recently checked out the fees from mainnet and I noticed that it was very, very cheap right now, more than I expected. So yeah, I think value are extracted from the mainnet to the L2s and other layers. So yeah, I think even though the Initia is in its nascent stage, but do you think this could happen on the Initia because there would be some, I don't know, great apps with great success? Or
Well, I hope there are apps with great success. But that's one of the reasons of we understood that what does Initia's layer 1 exist to do, and how can we ensure that value still accrues to the Initia token in a world where the app chains are the main focus. Right? I think you slowly remove the distinction over time of like what is a layer 2 versus what is a layer 1. And you see the initial layer 1 is more of a base layer that's there to provide some things for these layers, which is, what do you really care about a layer 1 doing? You care about it providing security. You care about it providing liquidity, rewards and economic benefits, and then like some tooling and stuff. And so Initia right now, I think, does those things very well through a few factors. One is enshrine liquidity. That's a mechanism by which we stake LP tokens directly with the validators on the Initia layer 1. And this builds a moat of accessible liquidity for layer 2s. It puts productive assets to work in securing the chain. And then it also acts as a cross-chain router. So moving, say, USDC from one rollup to ETH on another, that is like prime liquidity for these swaps to happen through. And ensuring that within Initia's world, you don't have this liquidity fragmentation. And the one thing that's very interesting in comparison to Ethereum layer 2s is that Vitalik recently said that a lot of what Ethereum and L2s were built for is basically just token transfers. So Ethereum was kind of built from sending token A from address 1 to address 2, and layer 2s were to scale that to make it cheaper to do address 1 to address 2. But they weren't built to do like DeFi or cross-chain DeFi. And so the liquidity fragmentation and the ways that it's being fixed right now in Ethereum are basically teams that are coming in and fitting themselves into these holes and figuring out solutions. And Initia, essentially, we knew that we weren't scaling this system for token transfers. We were scaling it for like actual use cases and app chains specifically, and cross-chain app chains. And so a lot of those problems don't exist on Initia. The second is Initia VIP. I think does a really good way of having app chains care about the layer 1. I think we've never believed that, burning gas fees or burning the init token is going to drive significant value accrual. And so we don't care about, it's not going to be the ultrasound money that Ethereum is that is like slowly deflating. But it is very important to get new use cases built for the init token. So you do still have the idea that this is multi-chain money. And so Initia VIP kind of pushes teams to integrate the init token and create new mechanisms to use it in a way that Atom never really did.
You recently tweeted that VIP will be the most egalitarian system if it works. Did it work?
I don't know. We haven't launched mainnet yet.
No, during the testnet. So how are these layer 2s setting up the KPI, and like how is it executed?
Yeah, so every layer 2 team basically makes a point system. This has to be transparent of like how these points are being calculated. And then every epoch, which is 2 weeks, you have to post this data to the chain. And then we read that from the layer 1. They can post it more frequently so users can see their points being upgraded, updated over time. A lot of them choose to do mechanisms that are, I think the way that we'll see these VIP point systems being created will change. Right now, it's a bit more what is just most important to me. So for something like Blackwing, maybe it's volume. Right? For a lending market, it's probably borrows. For an NFT platform, it's probably the mints of the NFTs. We've been scheming with some of the teams like Infinity Ground on how they want to use theirs, perhaps as a way to have users try out every new game that they publish. So a binary point system that's basically just 1 or 0. Have you tried this new game that came out this epoch? Versus retention that's like, are you continually playing with these games? So I think there's just all sorts of strategies that we'll see over time. Some teams did stuff like, if you vote for our Initia in the gauge vote, the point system is based on that. But we're going to ban that. Because if one team does that, every team needs to do that. So there are some kinks that we're going to need to work out over time. I think it's just like a crazy idea that we've had. And so once it's in practice, we'll be able to evolve it.
Yeah, so VIP program is basically providing like an online incentive for both app chains and the users, right? And does Initia take part in how the app chain set a criteria in distributing the tokens? Let's say if one app chain says, oh, this is the criteria, how we're going to distribute the rewards to the users, and you guys don't like it. Do you guys take part in it?
So we leave it up to governance of the Initia layer 1. When a layer 2 wants to join VIP, they have to submit a MEEP, Initia Economic Engagement Proposal. And basically it's just a few things that they have to satisfy. One being their code is transparent and public on GitHub. Second being they've been listed on the Initia registry. Third being the details of how they're scoring their VIP program. And then basically if they're doing something parasitic, ideally you expect the layer 1 stakers to say, hey, we don't want this one to exist. But if it's fine, then they would vote it through. And so, yeah, we leave it to layer 1 governance. If there is a minister that does something suspicious later on, they can always be blacklisted.
And how does that blacklist work?
Just
Let's
layer
go
1
through.
governance.
Okay.
And then it says, okay, we stop distributing rewards to their operator address for their users.
Got it.
It's my first time ever hearing about the meep.
I made up the word a while ago. And I just tried to fit it in. But it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's catchy.
The meat.
Yeah,
Meep.
the meep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You obviously want like good apps to be on Initia, right? And
Yes.
how, like, without providing a grant, how are you onboarding and finding and onboarding all the good builders?
Yeah. So I think it's a much slower process than being like, hey, here's a bunch of money. Come do it. But like I was saying, I think I wouldn't say grants attract the strongest, most aligned builders. So rather it's about having a value proposition that people care about. Right? Like Initia is a system built for app chains. If you want to build an app chain, this is the best place to do it, full stop. It is better than building on a Cosmos chain. It is better than building on the OP stack, better than building an Arbitrum Orbit chain. And when you talk to teams and you show them the value props, especially if they're using a VM that is not EVM, because we support WASM and Move as well, it just becomes very clear that this is like the place for them to build. And us knowing that our goal is to help these teams win, we'll do whatever we can to try and make that happen. It's very nice when you have like a entire ecosystem of teams that are trying to win together. It's a lot more. So I have this crazy analogy that I'll say that is basically rollups on Ethereum are like the EU, and Initia and the rollups on the interwoven stack are like the US, the Fed, which is
Who did this? Who said this?
me and Stanford made this up, which is not great because I'm not trying to call ourselves the Fed chain, but it's kind of like what we're doing here. So basically in the EU, you have all these app chains on Ethereum. They are loosely connected to each other through the ETH layer 1, but they frankly don't give a shit about each other, right? Like they all just care about their own economics. But on Initia and chains on the interwoven stack, there is a federal government, and that is the Initia layer 1. We care about deciding how monetary policy works, how transportation works, like how these tokens can be moved around. We're very opinionated. We only use layer 0 and IBC. We don't support any other bridges. We only use Celestia for DA. We don't allow other DAs. We enforce the use of enforce is a bad word, but we promote the use of like our wallet widget, and we have Initia VIP, which are the economics. Then chains on the interwoven stack are states that care about themselves. They can set their own policies that exist within them, but they still care about the collective growth and success of the entire US as a whole, which is Initia. And so it's a good analogy for understanding how it works, and it's nice to be part of a group that can fit together.
I think that, like just you said, it is a little bit more like a, I don't know, centralized for.
I
for
didn't
us.
say that.
yeah. He didn't say that, but yeah. As I understand, so yeah. Like you said before, if you want to solve the problems of Cosmos or Ethereum, you could have built some kind of tools like layer zeros or I don't know, Xtra or something. So it might be a different form, but yeah, you could have built some kind of tools or SaaS, but you end up building the layer ones and the ecosystem. So what was the rationale behind the?
I think if you just build like the messaging part, right, there's just still so much more that needs to be solved when it comes to like product UX and economic systems. Like architecture is only one piece of the puzzle. And I think our architecture set is phenomenal, but like if I just build layer 0, then I wouldn't solve the ease of building a Cosmos chain. Like the fact that these are rollups means you don't have to deal with a validator set. You don't have to deal with a bunch of IBC relayers. You can just kind of spin up this chain in the most lightweight way possible. And then the product stack is very important too, because you're creating this. Hey, Jesse, how about you talk about the Apple design philosophy here?
Okay, so we are the app store of blockchain. So
We're
like
the Apple of blockchain.
Can you say that one more time? Looking at the camera.
we are the Apple of blockchain. So
That's trademarked. I don't think you can say it.
can I continue? I say App Store. Okay. So, you know how developers on App Store, they can deploy the apps they made in like whatever language, and they can deploy if they're good. And the users will download without knowing the tech behind them. And also, the apps you have on your iPhone, they are connected to each other. So like they use Face ID or the in-app payment system that's connected through the App Store that Apple provides, right? So that's how we work. So we support EVM, WASM VM, and MoveVM. So like no matter what, like what the developers prefer, they can deploy anything they want on Initia, and the users won't have to know which VM or which language it was made out of. And also, the dApps on Initia will leverage the infrastructure that Initia provides, the layer 1 provides. So like the Oracle validator, yada, yada, yada. So that's
Yeah, I think the idea is that despite having multiple different apps that are built by different teams that use different VMs or whatever, the interfaces for end users of how they connect to these, how they move around them is very similar. And that is UX pieces that we take control of as Initia so that we can create this seamless multi-chain world and slowly psyops users and people into believing that this is just how I move between different applications, even though it is different chains and different messaging systems. And I think bridge abstraction and chain abstraction have become very popular narratives these days. And like, we're under the belief that yes, chains should have a personality because it's one of the ways that you do attract users. I mean, if you don't have any vibes, you're not going to make it. But at the end of the day, we want to simplify the complexities of multi-chain. Right now, using Cosmos is like a pain in the ass, right? It's impossible to figure out my wallet address because every new chain has a different wallet. Every chain uses a different token for gas. And I just get funds stuck here and there. And so making sure that the UX of that system is as simple as possible and shares standard design principles is part of the Apple ideology. Whereas Android is a bit more of, plug and play whatever you want. These things are all loosely connected through some sort of infrastructure, but a lot to multiple degrees less.
I think the lack of sophistication in crypto apps are pretty much a biggest problem I think in the adoption of normal users. We don't have much apps that can suffice the standards of the Web 2 apps, I guess. So what Initia is doing to ensure the sophistication of the apps on top of Initia?
Well, I think that's one thing about app chains, right? Like an app chain itself doesn't have to be limited by the underlying layer 1 in terms of its scale or the way that its UX works. And so app chains, I think, have the ability to build Web 2-like user experiences that you can't really do as easily on an underlying layer 1. Because, you are not the only person building there. There can be other teams and congestion that shows up. But having a full stack that you can control through the Cosmos SDK, as well as like whatever VM you want, I think will bring more applications that are along the Web 2 UX stack. And then we're ensuring that those teams can thrive, and you can cross-pollinate other applications easily.
Also, you talked about how Initia doesn't seem very decentralized, but I think that it's my opinion, but Initia's end goal is not to be the most decentralized chain ever, but to if the users can have better UX when it's a little bit more centralized, I think that's our goal.
Are you gonna
Provide better and the best UX.
Are you gonna charge 30% fee of the Apple App Store?
No,
Yeah, App Store is
we're
success.
giving. We're giving.
Good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
To clarify, the Initia layer 1 has a decentralized validator set, and these are full optimistic rollups with rollbacks and fraud proofs. They're not side chains. So that's the same rollup system that is used on Ethereum.
Yeah. On the App Store, like apps have to submit an application to be listed. And also there are like featured apps, right? And for the Initia, I guess that would be like a marketing support on socials or like onboarding them as part of the ecosystem. And what are some of the like green flags that you guys look for? Like what are the vibes that you guys prefer when talking to their team?
Initia is fully permissionless, so anyone can deploy anything on Initia. But I think I'm not in the marketing team, but I think there's a certain DD we do when it comes to like whitelisting them or like fully supporting them on socials.
I think you just want teams that are
Legit.
capable, right? Like that are self-sufficient, ones that are there to grind and build something. Those ones will naturally be more likely to like post on Twitter, to make content of their own. We want to support as much as possible. We're happy to do things like, VIP, talk about people on Twitter, hold Twitter spaces, etc., scheme about like economic systems, and how these protocols are going to work. But to some degree, you just want to find people that are good entrepreneurs, right? That kind of know how to grow their own systems, because as they grow their own products, they will also help grow Initia. And we can't do that for everyone.
Right.
One more question about the building the decent apps for users. So, how do you see the difference between building a Web 2 apps and Web 3 apps using Initia and other features right now? How the experience of developing the apps are different in current stage?
Everyone else?
Are you asking as a developer's point of view, how is it different from building a
Yeah,
Web 2 app?
I was asking that how much it is difficult to build the good Web 3 or on-chain apps.
Okay, deploying the app itself is very easy to deploy a rollup on Initia. But I think it's the matter of the business model or like the content you have as a developer, as a building team. So I don't think that there is a core difference in, I don't know, the tech stack,
Yeah.
or it could be easier.
Well, if
But-
you have to write smart contracts.
I mean,
It's a pain in the
they
ass.
already know. Why would you
The
not
Web 2
assume?
developers already know how to build smart contracts?
Well, we have Move, so it's like similar to Rust,
True.
which is easier to deploy. You're a contract developer. You should know.
Contract developer. Yeah, I think one of the things about having multiple VMs is just that for all types of developers, you can try and make it as easy as possible. Move is just very easy to learn for new developers. Cosmosm is great if you're into Rust and security focused, and Solidity is really nice if you just want to fork something and like tweak it. It just has the most mindshare and developer support. And so just having those options is huge.
But as an X builder, I think it's not the tech that's very different. It's just like the content of the app, because like I can't just build a calendar app on Web3. Like there would be no use for it, or it's just, yeah.
I understand. So, Just being said, you said the Johnson says you were before the smart contract developer.
At Terra,
And-
right?
Yeah.
That's right.
So Zon, you're from Terra Luna, as well as your
From
co-founder.
Canada.
So, you're from Terra Luna, and so is your co-founder. How did you join Terra?
I was a software engineer, just finishing up my master's in CS, and I was in my mom's basement because I was scared of COVID.
Did you have the
Um,
beard?
I had a big beard as well as a lot of hair because I hadn't left in a few months, and I was looking at what to basically do, and so I was playing Smash Bros, playing in DeFi Summer, and then finishing my master's. And so I got into, before I started my real Web 2 job as a computer scientist, I was thinking, what would it be like to build in this space that I've been spending so much of my time? And so I started looking into it. I fell in love with the app chain thesis, which was the belief that any chain can vertically integrate with their application, and then you have this shared underlying thread of infrastructure across multiple of these for all things communication. And that was basically Cosmos, right? It was like the only one that had this idea originally. Now we see it everywhere because we have rollups, but this is back before rollups were a thing. And so I joined the only relevant Cosmos chain at the time, which was Terra. As a smart contract developer intern, I was still finishing up school while I was doing that. And then I was basically just helping build some of the products internally and being lent out to a lot of ecosystem projects to help them build their contracts. It was pretty fun. I mean, the Terra ecosystem at the time was thriving. There was so much cool stuff being built, like so many interesting teams. And that's the thing that Cosmos lost, right? Like when Terra blew up, who cares about like UST and Luna? It was like there was so many cool people building in the ecosystem, trying to develop new stuff that the ecosystem lost. And I think that is pretty brutal. A lot of my friends that no longer are in Web3 anymore, or those that it was kind of like the Big Bang moment because all these teams just dispersed and went everywhere. And so I still stuck with Stanford, who is my co-founder at Initia now. I met him at Terra as well. He was a PM as well as an MEV research guy. Previously, he was a quant, so he studied pure math at Jane Street. He's like the right side of the curve, and I'm the left side of the curve. So I think it's always good to have that barbell strategy.
Yeah.
And so he and I basically, before the Terra collapse even, we had left to build a project of our own together. It was supposed to be an options project that was on the Terra blockchain. Unfortunately, we were supposed to launch that the week after the collapse happened, which was very good and very bad. I mean, it was great because we didn't lose anyone money. It was bad because we had just spent like months of our life like working towards this thing, and we had just finished fundraising for it. And so it was like a tragedy because I had just lost a bunch of money from UST in Luna, and then all my paper wealth of this new product that we just built is also zero. And so we thought it wouldn't be wise to take this to another ecosystem. A lot of it came from the fact that we had integrated with every single application that was on Terra. And so we returned all the money that we raised back to our investors. We used our remaining money to like pay off the audits that we had done, and then spent a few months just thinking of what to do next. I played a lot of Elden Ring during that time. Stan basically went back to TradFi, quickly realized he can't do that anymore. And then came back, and then we basically started Initia. It was around the time that rollups started to become a thing, and we knew that everything that we had just seen in Cosmos was only going to repeat, and we knew that we needed to rebuild kind of the entire system.
So one of your founders got, after the collapse of the Luna, you got, as you said, they got dispersed and just going somewhere else. And you get to manage it to the combine one more time with your co-founder. So what made you come back to
Who contacted first?
Me and Stan were like
Rose?
bros, so we talk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, during that 3-month gap of when we were figuring out what to do next, like we were still talking every few days. We've just been longtime friends.
Mm.
So we knew we wanted to do something together. We just didn't know what yet, and we both explored our own paths and then realized that we still want to create something together.
Yeah, we only get to see like what really happened to Do-kwon and his like thoughts on what happened to Terra Luna, right? And as an intern there, how did you feel after you heard the news? How did you feel after you heard the news?
Which news?
The collapse.
The collapse of Terra Luna.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was unfortunate. I lost a bunch of money. A lot of people lost a bunch of money.
Did you personally invest in Luna? Or-
I mean, like I bought on the liquid markets.
Okay.
But all my Luna was staked. So it was
Where
GG
did
for me.
all the builders go?
They went here and there.
Mm.
You know, a lot of people stayed within Cosmos.
Mm.
Many people went to Ethereum. Lots of teams just stopped building in crypto altogether, which is pretty unfortunate. But I think there is now a lot of good products still built by people that used to work at
Right.
in the Terra ecosystem.
It's my personal question, but you used to be a smart contract developer,
Right.
and you're a CBDSM officer right now.
That's right.
Why the change?
I realized that even though I was a smart contract dev and I had fun building stuff, the smart contract developers and the engineers we have at Initia right now are better than me.
Yeah.
And so my abilities can be used better elsewhere. And so I think just knowing that they're good, it's all good that they're working in person together and they're going to build this thing that I can't build as well. I can focus on doing other things that help Initia. And so I did more of the BD strategy, marketing, slowly building up that team.
And you're good at saying words.
Yeah, I'm not bad at saying words. I wouldn't say I'm great. I'm okay at it. And I think having the computer science background is really beneficial when talking to new teams.
Yeah.
You can really understand if someone's just LARPing or their timelines are real or wrong. And so it has been
True.
useful.
Do you think we can, reproduce the success of Terra Luna I'm not saying that we are going to build the 20% API or something, but I'm saying the flourish of the ecosystem and the adoption of real applications and
Yeah, I
users.
think the ecosystem back at Terra was awesome. You just had so many different people building new things. That would be a very successful outcome, I think, if that happened for any ecosystem. And so I'd love to work towards like a thriving set of multiple different blockchains that are building along all different verticals. I think right now at Initia we've announced 11 layer 2s. I think they're all pretty phenomenal. And so I think we do have a really good chance of making a robust ecosystem that people actually care to come and use.
I think the previous bull cycle of the crypto was very much focused on the financial products and the DeFi or just high APY or something. And I think still does. Crypto must be related to the money or something. But do you think it would be, I don't know, different from the previous apps? Yeah, in the next, I don't know, cycle or the adoption. Yeah,
I think DeFi will continue to be the bedrock of crypto forever. But I think now people aren't trying to recreate the yields. Like we are tapping into the real world, right? We're using treasury bills. Like SDI is now like the base yield rate for everything within crypto. And we can use those as building blocks instead of trying to artificially create these yields. And so I think that is a great positive step to something that's a bit more sustainable. But I do think the products in crypto that will reach larger adoption or have the ability to attract new users are going to be outside of DeFi. They're going to be things like games as well as consumer applications. For example, on Berachain, there's this thing called Puffpaw. It is like fake to earn.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds phenomenal. I think they have a chance of attracting users, right? And I think we're going to see more stuff that's along the sides of like ownership, tapping into AI, focusing on these consumers that can bring in new users. I think the DeFi innovations are awesome, but they definitely are not user friendly, right? Like when I make a new DeFi innovation, I would think that I'm targeting the current existing users within Web3. And I think it's a great way to keep people around, but I don't think it's what's going to attract new ones.
What do you think the most, I don't know, contender of the Initia that can compete with Puffpo or other noble applications?
Puffpaw, they're going to kill it.
Yeah.
But I think
Can we have them on board onto Initia?
we could.
What is the noble application or user experience that can user expect from Initia that is not financial apps?
Yeah, I think the 3 games that we have are going to be pretty good. Tamagotchi, Civicia, and Infinity Ground. Infinity Ground's mini games are all mobile based, and so those are pretty easy to get into. I think Civicia has a very good chance, if they play it right, to build a game that people will want to use. And I think Tamagotchi is just so well built that I would enjoy playing it myself. And then outside of that, we have a couple of consumer applications. For example, there's this one called Lottery something. I don't actually know the name. But basically, there is this lottery project that we're working with that has 20,000 daily active users in real life right now in Web2 land, and they want to bring a bunch of their stuff on chain. And those are just like actual users. In crypto, it's very difficult to have actually 20,000 daily active users. And so some of these things that have been successful in Web2 and translating them to Web3, I think would be. And then I think one of the last things is I think Blackwing does have a good chance of being a little bit more consumer friendly because this is the meme coin cycle. And they're basically leverage trading on any shitcoin on any chain. And so if they abstract the whole chain experience and they let you just trade these shitcoins with leverage, I think that's something people would do.
Yeah, I think this is my last question, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that the period of the program of VIPs is 2 decades. Or is it?
The VIP rewards release at the same time span of staking rewards.
Yeah.
And so that is something like 7% every year. So I think it's total like 15 years. But it does more is distributed at first and then less later and later on. The idea being that you're using more inflation upfront to attract more users and developers. And then over time you find some mechanisms of sustainability.
Yeah, I think the period, the long period, it reflects the long term vision of the Initia, and I guess so. And what do you think it will be after those periods, or not
After
even
15 years?
not
I
the
have no
15
idea.
years, yeah, but yeah. What do you envision for the Initia to
What
be?
I
Yeah.
like about us having kind of control of the full stack from layer 1 to layer 2 to communication system to product and economics is that these things will be living, breathing pieces that change over time. Like maybe in 2 years, we realize that parts of VIP need to change. Like we have the ability to change that. Maybe we realize that we no longer need to use optimistic rollups, and now we want to move to the ZK in its stack. I think that will happen just naturally as ZK tech becomes better and better. Maybe we turn the initial layer 1 into a shared sequencer for all the layer 2s. Having this flexibility is like one of the best pieces about owning this system. Ideally, within 3 to 5 years, like all teams that want to build app chains are coming to Initia. We are like the hub for that sort of development of teams that basically want to own their own value. And then I think success would look like having a few really powerful applications that are driving users to it every single day, and then seeing cross-pollination between those applications.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I want to shift gears and talk about the community. In the L1 landscape, we have Vera, Monad, Initia, and maybe Story Protocol too. How would you define your community? How would you define your
Vibe.
vibe?
What's our vibe?
Yeah, we're definitely not boomer. A good culture of people that give back to the ecosystem, whether that be writing blogs, writing articles, writing threads, making art. I think that's a very crucial part of the eco. And then I think we have quite a few developers and big brain people that are thinking about building applications. Of course, building an app chain is a much bigger task than building just an application on a chain. And so the developer pie is smaller, but I think they're a lot more focused on building what they want to do. And so I think we have this mixed community between people that are building things like art as well as builders. And I want to try and build more mindshare within the researcher camp. I think a lot of the work that we've done is very interesting, but we only really share this information through twitter.com. And so we're starting to put out more research pieces, starting to put out more blogs, ensuring that all of the work that we've been doing is being seen and having more conversations about it. And then I want to also build up the community around the applications. Right? Like I've said many times, the point of Initia is helping applications win. I, of course, love that people are fans of Initia, but I want all of those fans to become fans of the different app chains.
Also, we have Jenny, the dog,
Dog enthusiasts.
and she has a huge fan base. She was here and there during KBW, and she was the star of the events.
How did that Jenny idea
Well,
start?
well, Stan, one of our co-founders, is the owner of Jenny. He's
Dad.
the daddy.
Yes.
And he just paid this random artist to draw emojis for Jenny on Telegram. So we use that a lot. And that just became a meme on Discord. And a lot of our fans or our community, even before the testnet launch, they loved the idea of Jenny being the idol of Initia. So it just happened like that. And it was only recently when people found out that Jenny was real. So
this happened by an accident, not we
Well,
need
our
a character
Initia
that.
logo kind of looks like a dog bone itself.
yeah.
And then our colors are black and white.
And Jenny fits right in.
Yeah, I think it's very effective because I saw it and very very cute. It was
Yeah.
especially cute.
But people call me Jenny often. And
Close.
Yeah.
We
close.
do also have
Which-
a designer on the
which
team
Jenny?
named Jenny.
What?
Which Jenny?
The dog Jenny.
Okay.
You mean the Blackpink Jenny? Yeah.
Yeah. And also I've got DMs they couldn't feed Jessie. So I was like, oh, I'm very well fed. Yeah, talk about the designers too.
Oh, we just have a designer on the team named Jenny.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about our killer
Yeah.
design team and
You guys have a killer design team.
Yeah.
All the assets that are just distributed on socials they're killing it.
yeah.
Everything on Initia is done in-house. We don't trust other teams very much.
Yeah. How many designers
So-
do you guys have?
We have 4,
Maybe 5.
5.
4 or 5.
How do you think about the in-house apps and other apps built by third-party providers? Do you think they? I don't know. I don't know how to ask about this, but do you have some preference on your native apps?
Oh, I have a personal question on that. We have a lot of apps in-house. So our wallet, Explorer, we have our own decks, governance vote thing, and in an AI, which is NFT. We have a lot of things. And how do you plan to manage all these as the ecosystem grows?
Yes, we have a big team. We're about 39 now. I think these key apps like the Initia app, Initial scan, the bridge pages and the bridge widget, the wallet widget and the wallet. They're all just pivotal parts of the ecosystem, and they're all things that we want to have product control over. Right? That's a huge part of the Apple design philosophy. And so I think we will continue to own those pieces. And then the idea is that, the applications and chains on the interwoven stack are all their own applications. They use parts of these things. I think that basically the reason that we have built all of this ourselves is because we want to control the product flow. And we don't trust other teams. And that's why we have our own front-end team, our own back-end team. All of our design, all of our mobile work is all done ourselves. And it's just a lot easier when we have an idea of how we want to shape this vision. And so I think we will be okay, given that we've built it all.
For like explorers, decks, those things, it's very understandable. But why? What's the biggest reason why people should use Initia Wallet?
So I think there's two parts of wallet. One is wallet widget. That is basically a widget that you put in your front end app that allows you to connect to any EVM wallet, Cosmos wallet, in-app wallets, Solana wallets. And that one just has a brand feel that is similar to Initia's, but it allows you to connect with whatever. Like a huge goal of ours is to lower barriers to entry. If I am a Rabby wallet user, I'm never going to download a new wallet and go use this app chain. So we know that we need to minimize like the steps of friction to using the app chains on Initia. The Initia wallet itself, I think, is just a multi-chain wallet that is done pretty well. I think within Cosmos, I personally have struggled to use things like Kepler and Leap. I think they're phenomenal teams. They're very good. But we wanted to make something that we thought fits our vision a bit more. And so we have all the options that you could care for, and then you can use whatever you want.
Also,
the same thing goes for Bridge Widget.
Yeah. The wallet, it shows all your assets on all the L2s on Initia. So it's like you can actually visualize the interwovenness of the ecosystem. Go ahead.
The second thing is the Bridge Widget. That basically is just like another front-end tool that aggregates all the flows into a rollup, whether that be over in layer 0, IBC, CCTP, and native USDC, any sort of route. And that is so that chains on the interwoven stack can be sovereign in the sense that you don't need to tell users bridge to the initial layer 1 through X front end, bridge to my layer 2 through some other front end. You can be coming from Ethereum or Solana or Aptos and just move directly into these rollups. And that is a huge part of what we're building, right? We want these teams to feel sovereign, to be able to do whatever they want, but then still have like little ways that we can cross-pollinate them into other apps on Initia.
Can I ask last question?
Last question? Yeah.
As a founder, what's your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge? My biggest challenge right now is probably just figuring out.
Are you emotional?
I'm trying to think.
Okay. I thought you were tearing up.
It would be very thankful here now.
Yeah, just cry.
Yeah.
Start crying.
Yeah, we will use it as a highlight. Yeah.
It's going to be a great hook.
I think the biggest challenge is just finding how to grow a team very effectively. I've never been a manager before. Right? So
you were an intern right before.
I was an intern. I was also a full-time smart contract dev. And then I went and built my own product with Stanford where there's just two of us. And so I've never had to manage a team. But luckily, when I was an intern at like big tech companies in the past or other startups, I've been taking some of those ideas. But like that was as a smart contract developer. Now I run part of the business team. I don't know how I manage the guy that makes memes all day. And so I think that's one of my biggest struggles is just like, how do I do that as well within a distributed fashion? The business team doesn't work together in person. And so ensuring that stuff is well sunk is hard to do when people live everywhere and are in different time zones.
I think it was very successful as when we consider that you don't have much experience before starting Initia. Well, yeah. What was this? What was the skills or I don't say the secret that you have that others don't have?
I have no secret.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
suave. You're suave.
don't even know what that word means.
I have no idea what it
What do you
means
mean
either.
by
What do you
suave?
mean?
What do you mean by
What do you mean,
suave?
Jesse?
Charismatic.
Okay.
I think it's sure. It's important to have good personality in what you're building,
Mhm.
and then it's important to bring on the right people. And I think we've done a great job.
Mm.
Look at this one.
Yeah, you have the best DevRel in Korea, best killer. Shut up. I'm showing them. Just could you let me?
Restart.
Okay, you have the best DevRel in Korea, killer engineers, best designers. What are the green flags for you to find the right person? Or what are the red flags?
Yeah, I think one of the things is you need to find people that can own themselves, right? They can take on a vertical and just make sure that they're gonna succeed, right? And I think everyone at Initia right now has that ability where they can own everything within their product stack and then just drill down on it. And I think having dependencies otherwise is just very bad for productivity. And so we've done a good job so far, and we'll see how well we do scaling it.
Also, everyone at Initia genuinely loves Initia. So
I should hope so.
yeah. That's a good.
Just as a DevRel there,
Yeah.
what do you think the reason is why people all the team members love Initia? Is it something that the founders are doing or
Yeah.
is it-
Well, based on a lot of things I hear from other teams and compared to that, our founders themselves are very passionate about what they're building, and they actually do a lot of work. They do most of the work, and which is very supportive in a way. We don't want our founders to be just the face of Initia and do nothing, right? He does a lot of work, and that's I think
We're
that
talking about Stanford, right?
and you.
You are being too humble. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I think we all kind of learn from that. And also each team, the design team, the dev team, they never sleep. They're cracked. And seeing that we all just I don't know,
respect each other?
respect each other,
Yeah, people are on the grind.
get
I think everyone's
inspired.
just hungry.
Yeah.
They want to win.
Yeah. And they just genuinely love building Initia. It's a fun project because we do a lot of things.
Yeah.
We do
Do a
too
lot
many
of things.
things.
Maybe a little.
Yeah.
And how did you join Initia?
Okay, so I left my ex company,
Which was?
A41.
What's A41?
They're one of our validators now.
Oh, they're
But-
the validator company?
Yeah, it's a validator company in Korea. And I left A41. And before I left, I kind of knew I was going to leave. So on LinkedIn and Twitter, I just posted every research I've done as a recap for 2023. And luckily, Stanford read the research articles and he asked Harvey, which is one of our DevRels, to contact me, and we had a coffee chat. And I didn't really know what Initia was back then, so I was not very, I don't know, engaging in the in the coffee chat. But I loved the team. I loved the vibe, and there was Jenny, so I was like, this looks like a good company. I'll find out what they do later, and just why not join?
Because of Jenny.
Because of Jenny and Stan. Mostly Stan, because
Not Zon.
I didn't get to see Zon until I had the first meeting with him. He gave me like a crash course on like the elevator pitch and like how to talk about Initia and stuff. Yeah.
Could we hear your elevator pitch?
Yeah, let's hear
That's the
it.
same thing
And-
that Zon did in the beginning.
Looking at the elevator?
Yes.
No, at
the camera?
Yeah.
Initia is a Cosmos SDK, move VM layer 1. Initia is a network for interwoven rollups where we reimagine how the multi-chain networks should look, feel, and operate.
Nice.
I think this would look like too commercial. too much feel like advertisement.
Do you actively go out and do BD?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah?
I'm still trying to define the scope of my work, but I do a lot of I don't do actively BD, but
No one at Initia does active BD.
Hmm.
I say we just exist.
Yeah.
Most projects are inbound.
and a lot of people recognize me like individually and then find out about Initia. And I think that's an organic way
famous.
to I am.
Jesse, what's your biggest challenge as a developer in Initia?
Initia? Oh,
Careful.
okay. Zon is not very responsive.
Because you guys are in a different time zone, no?
Yeah. That's I like that you're here now.
Thanks.
Although you weren't very responsive today.
I was asleep.
Well, are we done asking
Yes. Yeah.
questions? Okay. It was great having you here. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
for coming.
Did you have fun?
I had a good time.
Not
Thanks for
fun?
your employment. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow at the office.
Yep.
You can leave now.